Throughout history, wars have been fought, empires have risen, and many have fallen. But one thing remains constant: the art of military strategy. While technology has transformed warfare, the foundations of modern military tactics are deeply rooted in the teachings of the past. How do centuries-old techniques continue to guide armies in a world dominated by precision-guided missiles and drones? Let's take a closer look at ancient military tactics that are still used today. Some of the greatest minds in history, like Sun Tzu, Julius Caesar, and Alexander the Great, developed strategies that shaped ancient warfare. But what makes these tactics so special? Their ability to adapt and remain relevant. Today, we'll explore 5 timeless strategies that shaped ancient battles and their surprising application in modern warfare. In 216 BCE, Hannibal's bold strategy at the Battle of Cannae became a textbook example of military genius. Facing a much larger Roman force, Hannibal executed one of the most famous tactical maneuvers in history: the double envelopment. By deliberately allowing the center of his line to fall back, he lured the Roman troops inward, only to have his cavalry and infantry encircle them completely. The result was catastrophic for Rome, with tens of thousands of soldiers killed or captured, marking one of the worst defeats in Roman history. This strategy not only cemented Hannibal's legacy as a brilliant commander, but also influenced military tactics for centuries. Fast forward to today, and the double envelopment remains a critical concept in warfare. It has been famously adapted in modern blitzkrieg strategies, where speed and precision overwhelm the enemy, and in troop deployments during conflicts such as the Gulf War, showcasing its timeless effectiveness in both ancient and modern battlefields. Guerrilla warfare, fighting in small, mobile units to exploit the weaknesses of a larger force, is as old as warfare itself, deeply rooted in history. The Scythians of Central Asia, for instance, perfected hit-and-run tactics to destabilize and overwhelm larger, more organized armies, using their mobility and intimate knowledge of the terrain to gain the upper hand. These tactics laid the groundwork for similar strategies used throughout history. Flash forward a millennium, and guerrilla warfare became a defining feature of the Vietnam War, where insurgent forces utilized dense jungles and surprise attacks to outmaneuver a technologically superior opponent. It's the ultimate underdog's tactic, designed for asymmetric warfare where one side lacks the resources or manpower for direct confrontation, relying instead on strategy, adaptability, and persistence to level the playing field. Fear is a weapon, and no one wielded it better than Genghis Khan. Known for his ruthless reputation, he mastered the art of psychological warfare. His armies would spread terror long before the first arrow was fired, using tactics like mass slaughter in earlier battles to create legends of their brutality. Often, entire cities would surrender without a fight, simply out of fear of what might happen if they resisted. This ability to conquer through intimidation saved resources and strengthened his empire. Modern militaries have taken these principles to new heights, refining psychological warfare with propaganda campaigns, misinformation, and cyber operations. They target the minds of both adversaries and civilians, aiming to sow confusion, fear, and distrust. From dropping leaflets during war to sophisticated social media interference, the tools may have changed, but the goal remains the same: break the enemy's will to fight, weaken their resolve, and win without firing a shot. While castles and fortified cities may seem like relics of the past, siege tactics are alive and well in modern warfare. Throughout history, sieges have been a test of both endurance and strategy, from Julius Caesar's year-long siege of Alesia, where he encircled the city with miles of fortifications, to the medieval use of towering trebuchets to breach walls. Today, urban warfare has adapted these age-old principles with modern technology. Drones, air power, and precision strikes have replaced catapults, but the core tactics of cutting off supplies, isolating the target, and wearing down the enemy's resolve remain as critical as ever. In both ancient and modern conflicts, patience, resourcefulness, and careful planning continue to define the art of the siege. Perhaps the most famous tale of deception in history, the Trojan horse, was far ahead of its time, illustrating the power of cunning over brute force. The legendary wooden horse used by the Greeks to infiltrate Troy laid the groundwork for deceptive strategies in warfare that would evolve over centuries. By the time of World War II, these tactics had become far more sophisticated, with decoys and false information campaigns playing critical roles in major operations. For example, Operation Bodyguard, which misled German forces about the location of the D-Day invasion, was a masterclass in strategic deception. Today, military forces have taken these methods even further, relying on advanced misinformation tools and decoy techniques to spread confusion and misdirect their opponents. Think of modern electronic warfare, which creates phantom signals to mislead enemy forces, or high-tech camouflage that allows vehicles to blend seamlessly into their environments. Deception remains as vital as ever in the complex landscape of modern conflict. Divide and conquer. It's a strategy as old as war itself. Julius Caesar famously employed it during his campaigns in Gaul, skillfully pitting tribes against one another to weaken their alliances and secure Roman dominance. By fostering discord and exploiting the fractures within his opponent's ranks, Caesar was able to defeat larger, potentially united forces with remarkable efficiency. Today, this concept remains a cornerstone of counterinsurgency operations. Modern military strategists use similar tactics to isolate factions, disrupt communication, and exploit internal divisions to destabilize enemies from within. Politically and militarily, divide and conquer continues to be one of the most effective ways to dismantle potentially united threats, highlighting its enduring relevance and adaptability across centuries of conflict. While retreat might sound like failure, a well-planned withdrawal is often the foundation for ultimate victory. History shows countless examples where stepping back was a strategic move rather than a sign of defeat. Alexander the Great famously executed calculated retreats to lure enemies into traps, turning apparent disadvantage into decisive triumphs. During World War II, the heroic Dunkirk evacuation saved over 330,000 Allied forces, allowing them to regroup and fight another day, which proved critical to the war effort. Even in modern warfare, strategic retreats are employed to preserve valuable resources, reposition troops to stronger defensive positions, or draw the enemy into unfavorable situations that can be exploited. A retreat, when used wisely, can shift the balance of power and set the stage for success. When faced with devastating odds, sometimes the best strategy is to leave the enemy with nothing. The scorched earth policy is a brutal but highly effective military tactic that involves destroying anything that could be useful to the enemy, including food supplies, infrastructure, and shelter. One of the most well-known examples is the Russian strategy during Napoleon's invasion in 1812, where they burned Moscow, leaving no resources for the French army to support themselves during the harsh winter. This forced Napoleon's troops into a disastrous retreat, marking a turning point in the campaign. Today, variations of this tactic are still seen in modern conflicts, where armies or groups destroy vital infrastructure like bridges, fuel depots, or communication lines to hinder advancing forces, prolonging the struggle and increasing the costs of invasion. The ambush is a timeless tool of warfare, relied upon by countless armies throughout history. The devastating loss of Roman forces in the dense woods of Teutoburg is a haunting reminder of its power, where an entire legion was wiped out by Germanic tribes who knew the terrain far better than their adversaries. Ambushes have since evolved, but remain just as effective. From the steamy jungles of Vietnam, where guerrilla fighters use dense foliage and booby traps to outmaneuver technologically superior forces, to modern ambushes in urban warfare, the principles remain the same. Small, agile units, strategically positioned in the right environment, can decisively cripple larger, better-equipped forces. It's a matter of leverage, knowing your terrain, exploiting weaknesses, and catching the enemy completely off guard. Whether in ancient forests or concrete jungles, ambushes demonstrate the enduring importance of strategy over sheer strength. What's more clever than running away? Pretending to, only to strike with overwhelming force. Genghis Khan's armies mastered the art of the feigned retreat, a cunning tactic that involved deliberately withdrawing to create the illusion of defeat. This move lured enemies into a false sense of security, drawing them forward in pursuit. Once overextended and disorganized, the enemy forces were caught off guard by a sudden, devastating counterattack. This strategy was not only effective but revolutionary for its time, and variations of it continue to be replicated in modern military operations, where baiting the opponent sets the stage for a perfectly timed and calculated counterstrike. The pincer movement, striking the enemy from both sides, is a classic military strategy that relies on coordinated forces and impeccable timing to succeed. It's a maneuver designed to encircle and trap enemy forces, cutting off their escape routes and leaving them vulnerable to a decisive attack. One of the most famous examples of this tactic occurred during the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC, where Alexander the Great's forces used it to devastating effect against the Persian army. Fast forward to modern warfare, and the pincer movement remains just as effective. During World War II, tank divisions employed the strategy with precision, often trapping and overwhelming entire enemy units, demonstrating its versatility and enduring relevance on the battlefield. Naval blockades have long been a critical strategy in warfare, used to choke off supply lines and weaken enemies from a distance without direct confrontation. Dating back to ancient times, the Athenians perfected this tactic against their Spartan foes during the Peloponnesian War, leveraging their naval dominance to isolate and starve the opposition into submission. This strategy allowed them to control trade routes and cut off essential resources, severely hampering the Spartan war effort. While we no longer fight with triremes or wooden warships, the principle of blockading remains relevant in modern military and geopolitical strategies. Recent examples like the Gulf blockade demonstrate how naval superiority can be used to sever key supply chains, enforce economic pressure, and influence international diplomacy. These blockades often serve dual purposes, exerting military control while sending a strong political message to adversaries. Even the ancient empires understood the immense power of information. During China's Warring States period, rulers deployed intricate networks of spies to infiltrate enemy courts, manipulate politics, and gather critical intelligence to outmaneuver their rivals. This early form of espionage laid the groundwork for the sophisticated tactics we see today. In the modern era, intelligence gathering has evolved dramatically, incorporating advanced AI systems, cyber capabilities, and cutting-edge technology to help nations anticipate threats and stay one step ahead of their adversaries. While the tools have changed, the underlying principle remains timeless. Knowledge is power, and those who wield it effectively hold the upper hand in any conflict or competition. If you can attack, defend. Fortifications have always been a cornerstone of military strategy, evolving alongside technology and tactics. In medieval times, castles with towering walls, moats, and drawbridges stood as nearly unassailable strongholds, protecting their inhabitants from invading armies. These structures were designed not just for defense, but to project power and control over surrounding lands. Fast forward to today, and modern military bases rely on advanced bunkers, early warning radar systems, and anti-missile defenses to shield against increasingly sophisticated threats. Whether it's a stone fortress or a high-tech command hub, the concept of fortressing remains timeless, adapting to meet the challenges of every new era. An army marches on its stomach. Throughout history, this principle has remained true. The Romans, with their intricate and well-organized supply lines, understood this well, ensuring their legions were always equipped with food, water, and other necessities during long campaigns. Modern forces, reliant not only on food, but also on fuel, ammunition, and advanced technology, face even greater logistical challenges. A steady and secure supply chain is as critical to their success as their combat strategy. Disruption of supply lines, whether through sabotage, blockades, or mismanagement, can cripple an army's effectiveness and lead to defeat faster than direct confrontation on the battlefield. From the strategies of ancient generals to today's cutting-edge battlefield innovations, history continues to guide and inspire us. The clever deception tactics of Sun Tzu, the stalwart defensive strategies of Roman legions, and the bold offensive maneuvers seen in pivotal wars all remind us of humanity's enduring ingenuity and adaptability. These tactics are more than just relics of the past. They serve as powerful frameworks for problem-solving and decision-making in the present. Lessons from history are not merely stories. They are blueprints for shaping a smarter, more strategic future. Love the video? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe for more epic tales where history and strategy collide.